Don't forget, you can reach the latest episode of Potomac Watch anytime. Just ask your smart speaker, play the Opinion Potomac Watch podcast.
From the opinion pages of the Wall Street Journal, this is Potomac Watch.
Welcome back. Before we get to the pardon question, one more thought on the Second Amendment appeal. My view, I guess, is that I do think that there is an interesting and legitimate constitutional question here that I agree with Kim may at some point go up to the Supreme Court, though I am very skeptical that it would be this case. And I'm skeptical that whatever the Supreme Court did would even cover Hunter Biden. There have been some lower courts that are ruling on these questions. Here's one from the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in 2023. This involves someone who was an unlawful user. He admitted to smoking marijuana multiple days per month, but the government presented no evidence that he was intoxicated at the time of his arrest. The three-judge panel says that it is a close question under the Supreme Court's Bruin precedent whether this individual's conviction can stand, and then they conclude no. In short, our history and tradition may support some limits on an intoxicated person's right to carry a weapon, but it does not justify disarming a sober citizen based exclusively on his past drug usage. Unquote. And so, Bill, that is the kind of question that I can imagine the Supreme Court taking up at some point. But I guess I would make a couple distinctions. One is that this case involved someone who is using marijuana, which is a different kind of controlled substance with different effects and different regulations on it than cocaine or crack. And two, I still think there is some factual dispute about whether Hunter Biden had this gun when he was using. And remember, one of the pieces of evidence or testimony in this case, Bill, was that there was cocaine residue found on the gun pouch that Hunter Biden used. And so even if there is some kind of successful appeal under Bruin, personally, I'm very skeptical that it would be broad enough to cover the behavior that Hunter Biden is accused of here.
Yeah, you're right to be skeptical. I think on that cocaine on the pouch, I think Abby Lowell intimated that it might be Hallie Biden's, not Hunter's. As you say, one difference is Hunter is saying he wasn't an addict or user when he filled out the form. So if he is, I think it becomes an easier question. I come from a long line of what we call practicing alcoholics and non-practicing alcoholics, and we immensely prefer the non-practicing. But the people that stop drinking, they're told they're an alcoholic for life. And I think that's kind of an issue with Hunter. Look, I'm a little split on the issue because on the one hand, I don't want a cocaine addict getting a handgun. Look at the pictures on the laptop. This is not a guy handling the firearms responsibly. On the other hand, you could see how that could easily lead to unconstitutional limits on people. Where do you draw the line? If you can get a doctor to say someone shouldn't have a gun, it could really be open to abuse. But I also agree with you, I think, and Kim, that if the Supreme Court takes up this argument, I doubt they would do it on this case. I think there are better cases to do it than on the Hunter Biden case.
Finally, let's turn to the question of the pardon, and we'll give Joe Biden the first word. This is the president on ABC last week with David Muir.
As we sit here in Normandy, your son Hunter is on trial, and I know that you cannot speak about an ongoing federal prosecution. But let me ask you, will you accept the jury's outcome, their verdict, no matter what it is?
Yes.
And have you ruled out a pardon for your son?
Yes.
You have.
Kim, that sounds pretty definitive, and I grant that if President Biden loses the November election to Donald Trump, then he has nothing left to lose by going through with his pardon. But especially if he wins, that might put him in an awkward position of having to put the pardon through while still trying to maintain political support to govern the country for the next 4 years.
Well, I think if he loses, it's highly likely that he will issue a pardon. If he wins, that's a little bit more complicated, but don't forget the wheels of justice can at times move a bit slowly. And I have no doubt that Hunter Biden's legal team is going to be doing a lot of appealing here, going to do everything it can, every which way, and also attempting to draw things out, especially if Joe Biden wins the election, to forestall any ultimate moment where, for instance, Hunter Biden suddenly must indeed report to a prison because he has run out every one of his other options. That could still be quite some time from now. So if Joe Biden was in office, he might be able to forestall that for a while. If he loses, then the options are very limited, and he's going to have to make a decision in a matter of, well, just a couple of months as to what he does. I think, look, the family ties are so strong there. I find it very hard to believe that he would leave office and not pardon his son. And you have to think that that is something that the Hunter Biden team feels as though they have in their back pocket somewhere.
Bill, the other piece of this, again, don't forget, are these tax charges that are also coming up for trial, because it's possible that on this gun case, Hunter Biden will not get a jail sentence. And it's impossible, I think, to understand what the president's thinking will be until we see what the sentence might look like on that tax charge, because there you're talking about something that I think is pretty serious alleged behavior and not a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, all the more remarkable because David Weiss let the more serious tax charges against Hunter for earlier behavior, he let the statute of limitations expire. So I think it's a really serious legal problem for him. My understanding, I think there's 6 misdemeanors and 3 felony charges related to the income he got from his business dealings overseas and failed to pay taxes on. So it is a big problem for him, and I'm sure that's what they're thinking about now. On Joe Biden, I'd say there's 2 other options, one really far-fetched. The far-fetched one is if he had to, he could pardon Hunter now and step down from the presidency. Say, I know said it wouldn't do it, so I'm stepping down. And that's a way to get him out of there, which a lot of Democrats want. Of course, it still leaves the Kamala problem, but it is a way where he could step down and sort of be seen to doing it honorably or on the service of his family. So that's one. The other one is far more simple. He said, I would not pardon, but he could commute the sentence, like just say no jail time. But that way he would be able to say, I'm respecting the jury. I'm just sparing my son jail time. So there's a lot of options still remaining.
Thank you, Bill and Kim. Thank you all for listening. You can email us at pwpodcast@wsj.com. If you like the show, please hit that subscribe button, and we'll be back tomorrow with another edition of Potomac Watch.